He moonwalked across stages and into history, but the closer you looked, the less you understood. Behind the glove, the glitter, and the legend, who was the real Michael Jackson? The king of illusion. He stepped onto the stage like a shadow made of light. Before the crowd even saw his face, they screamed. Not in fear, but in awe, as if witnessing a myth made flesh. He raised a single gloved hand, and the world held its breath. No words, just presence. The glittering jacket shimmered. The fedora dipped low. Then, he moved. It wasn't a walk. It was something unnatural. Something beyond physics. Backward, but forward. Smooth as mercury, sharp as lightning. The moonwalk. And in that moment, Michael Jackson became more than a pop star. He became a mystery. That was the magic. He could make people forget the world. But once the music stopped and the lights dimmed, something else lingered in the silence. A question. Not about his fame or his talent. Those were undeniable. The question was always the same. Who is he, really? Because no matter how bright the spotlight, Michael stayed hidden. A soft, almost whispering voice in interviews. Giant sunglasses that concealed his eyes. Layers of makeup, changing features, skin that faded from deep brown to porcelain pale. The more he transformed, the more people wondered what he was trying to escape. Reporters asked, but he smiled it away. "I just want to be me," he'd say. But the world had trouble believing it. Because me kept shifting. New faces, new names, new worlds built behind iron gates. Neverland. A mansion shaped like a fantasy, filled with statues, carousels, animals, and silence. It looked like paradise. But who builds a kingdom for one? The conflict wasn't just on the surface. It lived in the dissonance between man and myth. On stage, he was invincible, a force of energy and precision. Off stage, he was soft-spoken, almost fragile. As if applause gave him life, and quiet took it away. Some said he was brilliant. Others said he was broken. Some said both. He sang about being a lover, a fighter, a stranger in Moscow. He danced like he was chased by ghosts. And through it all, he kept offering himself through art, while hiding himself in life. The cameras followed. The tabloids speculated. Fans held on to the magic. Critics clawed at the mystery. Was he just eccentric, or haunted? Was the mask a choice, or a shield? By the time the world started asking the right questions, it may have already been too late. Fame had long since melted into isolation. And Michael, who once moonwalked across the globe, was now becoming a silhouette. A man whose greatest performance wasn't on stage, but off it. And just as quickly as he appeared, he would disappear behind smoke, lights, and the echo of thunderous applause. Not to be seen again until the next act. But behind every illusion lies the truth, and the closer you look, the harder it is to see. The lost childhood. Before the moonwalk, before the fame, there was a small house in Gary, Indiana. It was cramped, filled with noise, brothers, and the bark of orders. Michael was the youngest of 5 performing sons, yet his voice, delicate, aching, beyond his years, rose above them all. By age 6, he wasn't just singing. He was surviving. Not from poverty, but from pressure. Their father, Joe Jackson, ruled the family like a general. There was love, perhaps, but discipline masked it well. Rehearsals were rigid. Mistakes invited punishment. Applause was the only reward. And for young Michael, the stage became both a battlefield and a lifeline. He dazzled audiences, even then. He learned to spin, smile, and charm on cue. But he didn't play in the dirt. He didn't scrape knees in the park or hide under blankets from thunder. Childhood passed him by, dressed in sequins and microphones. Success came fast and heavy. The Jackson 5 exploded. Tours, interviews, and TV spots blurred together. Michael became the face of Motown, a symbol of black excellence, a boy with an old soul. But the soul was tired. Backstage, away from lights, he scribbled in notebooks. He watched cartoons. He asked for pet mice and toy robots. He didn't crave fame, he craved escape. Even then, his fantasy world was taking shape. As the years turned, so did the mirror. Fame grew taller than him, then swallowed him whole. He was no longer the kid with a golden voice. He was a commodity. A franchise. He smiled wider, danced harder, but the loneliness grew. He once said, "I don't remember being young." That sentence alone reveals the fracture. The man millions saw as ageless was never truly allowed to be a child. And so, when he finally had the power and the money, he built one. Not a childhood, but a kingdom made in its image. Neverland. A ranch turned playground. Ferris wheels. Laughter. Peter Pan statues. It was strange to outsiders, absurd, even. But to Michael, it was something sacred. A second chance. Not to grow up, but to remain small, safe, hidden. He invited children there. Not to corrupt, he claimed, but to protect. To share what he was denied. The world didn't understand. It didn't want to. But to Michael, they were the only ones who saw him, not as a legend, but as a friend. And so, the central conflict deepened. A man praised for being larger than life, but who desperately wanted to live the life he never had. A man aging backwards, emotionally suspended in time. Still, a question lingers beneath the laughter and lullabies. Was Neverland his healing, or his hiding? We may never know. But one thing is certain, childhood, once stolen, never returns the same. And sometimes, when it's lost too soon, the soul spends a lifetime searching for it in shadows. Shadows and scandals. Fame, like fire, gives light, but it also burns. By the 1990s, Michael Jackson stood taller than ever in the global imagination. He wasn't just the king of pop, he was a symbol, an empire, a phenomenon. Yet with every step forward, the shadows behind him lengthened. Fame had stopped being a dream. It had become a trap. He was isolated, constantly watched, rarely trusted. Once beloved for his childlike wonder, now he was scrutinized for it. Whispers grew louder, tabloids printed what they could prove, and what they couldn't. The world, once hypnotized by his performances, now peered behind the curtain with suspicion. In 1993, the illusion cracked. A young boy and his family accused Michael of something unthinkable. He denied it. Repeatedly. Tearfully. Publicly. But the court of public opinion had already taken its seat. Television screens were filled with speculation. The media didn't wait for a trial, they conducted their own. He settled the case out of court, claiming exhaustion, not guilt. Still, the damage was done. Trust eroded. Fans wept, critics sharpened their knives. His music grew darker, more desperate. The lyrics spoke of injustice, betrayal, and isolation. The boy who once sang about butterflies and love was now writing about being hunted. He tried to rebuild. He toured. He created. He fathered children. But the eyes never left him. Every interaction was dissected. Every gesture reinterpreted. Then came 2003. Another accusation. Another child. Another media storm, only this time there would be no settlement. There would be a trial. Cameras flooded the courthouse. Protesters and supporters clashed outside the gates. His health declined. His spirit dimmed. Yet he stood, this man who had once moonwalked through the hearts of millions, now shuffling into court, pale and shaking. The trial was brutal. Testimonies. Evidence. Rebuttals. And finally, after months of torment, not guilty. But innocence, once questioned, is never fully restored. Though legally cleared, Michael was changed. The childlike sparkle never quite returned. The once boundless energy seemed finite now, measured. With every appearance, he looked more like a memory of himself. And yet, the central mystery deepened. Who was Michael Jackson? Was he misunderstood, an eternal child targeted for his difference? Or was he hiding something behind that soft voice and mirrored sunglasses? The truth, if it ever existed in its entirety, was lost in noise. What remained was the narrative each person chose to believe. By now, the world had stopped trying to know him. It had chosen instead to define him. As a genius. As a cautionary tale. As a ghost still walking. But Michael Jackson was not done yet. In the distance, a new stage waited. One final act. And whether it would be a comeback, or a collapse, no one could tell. Not even him. Gone too soon, yet never gone. June 25, 2009. The world held its breath, and then exhaled in disbelief. Michael Jackson, the man who once seemed eternal, had collapsed in a rented mansion in Los Angeles. Cardiac arrest, the news said. Paramedics tried. The hospital confirmed. He was gone. 50 years old. Preparing for a comeback tour titled This Is It. Tickets sold out in minutes. It was meant to be a return to form. A final bow. But instead, it became a farewell no one was ready for. The grief was instant, global, and electric. Streets filled with fans holding candles and signs. Strangers hugged in silence, bound by the sudden emptiness he left behind. His music, once a soundtrack to celebration, now echoed with the sting of loss. Yet even in death, the mystery clung to him. What had happened behind those guarded walls? Reports pointed to a cocktail of medications. A doctor under scrutiny. A fragile man in a high-pressure storm. Dr. Conrad Murray became the face of negligence, later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. But justice offered little comfort. The world hadn't just lost a musician. It had lost a question that would never be answered. Who was Michael Jackson, really? Was he the boy genius forever chasing a lost childhood? The misunderstood recluse drowning beneath a tidal wave of fame? Or was he simply human, flawed, fractured, and desperately trying to hold himself together in a world that pulled him apart? His children remembered him not as an icon, but as Daddy. Soft-spoken, playful, protective. Friends described him as generous, lonely, meticulous. Critics clung to controversy. Supporters defended him with unwavering loyalty. In every retelling, the truth shifted, like light through a prism. Even now, years later, his shadow stretches across generations. New artists study his moves. Fans dissect old footage for meaning. Conspiracies swirl. Did he fake his death? Was he forced into silence? Some claim they still see him, on islands, in airports, in dreams. Because Michael Jackson never truly left. He became an echo. A symbol. A mirror reflecting back whatever the world projected. Beauty, darkness, genius, sorrow. And like all great myths, the closer you try to grasp him, the more he slips through your fingers. In the end, his story defies resolution. There is no final scene, no curtain drop that explains it all. There is only the music, timeless, haunting, joyful, aching. And the man behind it, still dancing somewhere in the minds of millions. So we ask again, as we did when the spotlight first found him. Who was Michael Jackson? And maybe that's the answer. He was the question. And he always will be.